3, 2, 1.
Reorganizing the Chaos. That is my talk title for today. And I want to start out with a few statements. First one, change happens. As it says in Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a time, and a time for every matter under the sun. Number two, change is constant. An old Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, said there is nothing permanent except change. Third one, change can be difficult. Albert Einstein noted the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And John Maxwell, who is an expert on leadership qualities, says change is inevitable, growth is optional. Next, change is your friend. And as Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. I'm going to repeat that one. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not to fighting the old, but on building the new. As the Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. That's what we're going to talk about today. Reorganizing the chaos of life so that we can turn away from the suffering and work through that chaos. Even use that chaos to build something new. Last week, we talked about raising our threshold. Our threshold to opinion and judgment, our threshold to the suffering from the old stories and junk thinking that we had, that we were given, that we were taught, all the triggers that show up in our lives and the ideas of lack and limitation, of course. Last week, we talked about raising our threshold to not react, but to respond. Not react, respond. To do that, we must change our attitudes and our perspective on things that are outside our control. We must stick to who we are. The individualized energy, intelligence, and love of the universal creative power of God, or whatever label you want to put it, or just the universal creative power. We are an individualized energy, intelligence, and love walking around right here, right now, on this planet at this time. But what about the inevitable change of life around us and change in us? You might ask that. What about that? What about that stuff that's happening around us? What am I going to do about that? Well, in change, most times, there's chaos. And yet out of the chaos comes cosmos, comes order. There's a great quote from Sister Joan Chittister. And she says there is no such thing, there is no such thing as a meaningless moment. Life is a growing thing, going from seed to sapling, always towards its purpose, the shaping of the self into a person of quality, compassion, and joy. But for that to happen, every segment must be faced and cannot be fled. Ecclesiastes, remember I read that at the top. You might remember that from the famous song by the Byrds, to everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Well, Sister Joan is saying Ecclesiastes, drawing both on reason and on faith, says it is only we ourselves who can complete the dance of life only by dancing it ourselves. With all our hearts, with all our souls. By its very definition, Ecclesiastes implies life simply demands it of us. And we can clomp around in it like it's mud, or we can dance around it like knowing how in control we really are, because we are revealing the divine that is within us. Anais Nin said, in chaos, there is fertility. The universe was begun in chaos, begun with nothing and just throwing little things in the recipe until planets were created, stars, etc., etc. In manifesting what we decided we require in our life, that comes out of chaos. It's a chaos of different aspects of that requirement, like the colors, the feelings, the tastes, the logic, and the auditory and tactile aspects of that idea, even if it's a thought process idea, a peace of mind kind of idea, even if it's a perspective or a thing, it doesn't matter. Whether it's an idea, perspective, or a thing that we have decided to declare into our lives. The chaos of this color and this feeling and this idea and this perspective coming together for that experience. That's the reason why we can have it now versus the old stories and BS in our belief system that say we can't, because we are taking that piece of chaos here and there. We're throwing out what we don't want, and we're putting into the recipe, into the bowl, what it is we have decided to have. Mary Shelley said, invention, it must be humbly admitted, does not consist in creating out of a void, but out of chaos. Invention, all creativity, comes out of chaos. The mixture of colors and shapes in the painting. Boom, 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 the chaos, and they mix together, and colors are mixed on the palette and then mixed on the media that the painter is using. The angles, the focal points, where to put the subject in the photograph by the photographer. The notes, the tempos, the dynamics that are chosen in the music that is composed. The words, the grammar, the sentence structure in books and articles. The decisions, the thoughts, the beliefs in the lives we lead and the experiences we bring forth. That is a creative chaos that turns into a cosmos, that turns into order, that turns into the art of living. The universe itself, like I said, it's evolved for over billions of years by this very mechanism of change through chaos. Go look at the new pictures that were released last week from the James W. Webb telescope. Fabulous pictures. You look at that and you can see some chaos, you can see some order, you see some beautiful light. And these are images from millions of miles away. So like I said, the universe itself evolved by billions of years, over billions of years. It's still evolving, it's still expanding by this very mechanism of change through chaos. There was a Nobel Prize-winning Russian-born Belgian theoretical chemist named Ilya Prigogine, and he works in the field of thermodynamics. And he discovered that the amount of randomness or chaos in a system increases as its time in existence continues. For example, a car will turn to rust and fall apart eventually, right? A mountain can get worn down, especially if there's water nearby. Even the expansion of the universe is a movement in the direction of increasing disorder, or what is called entropy. Energy is expanding. Energy is being used. The universal energy is infinite, but it's still there. It's still being used. It's still gets put into the system, leaves the system, gets put into the system. Atoms become molecules, then amino acids and proteins and cells, then multicellular life and social systems and planets and so on and so forth. It's a process of increasing order out of chaos. That's the way the universe works. That's the way we work. And even though energy is used and irretrievably lost, really, with every incarnation, as the second law of thermodynamics states, we are in an open system. This is not a closed system like a car. A car is a closed system. It doesn't expand its consciousness, so to speak. So eventually, because of the environment or our lack of doing something against what the environment will do, it will rust. Yes, the mountain will, from wind and rain and other forms of water, rivers trickling through it, waterfalls, etc., will dissipate. But we are in an open system. Our minds are an open system, constantly interacting with our environment and changing and growing and evolving all the time. And we are taking energy all the time. We take that infinite energy from the universe around us in the form of light and heat and the nutrients that we put into our bodies, the air, water, ideas, opinions, judgment. Yeah, we get it from there. Knowledge, as we increase our knowledge or reorganize, re-increase our knowledge, some of which dissipates in our environment. Like carbon dioxide comes out of our body, heat comes out of our body, waste products, various activities that we do, that dissipates some of the energy we have. But we are an open system, so we can reorganize and bring forth more nutrients into our body and mind and increase that energy. We're constantly adjusting our environment, right? We're changing, we're growing, we're healing. We're evolving. We're learning physically, mentally, spiritually. We're creating energy from that infinite universal supply. And Prigoghine's mathematical experiments proved that order emerges not in spite of chaos, but because of it. Like Mary Shelley says, invention is not in spite of chaos, but because of it. Invention brings that chaos to cosmos, to order. Evolution and growth are inherent in these open systems, which is us, our brains, and our universe. We take in the energy and matter from the environment, and then we release some of that energy in the environment, and we constantly and continually feed ourselves. We're feeding the universe and thus feeding ourselves in an infinite chain of energy. That's what he found in his mathematical experiments. It matters not if we're talking about a seed or a highway system, a corporation, or a human being. By interacting, we flow an intimate series of interactions. And this is not a universe of independent things, but rather one of process, change, and evolution. Yes, we are independent. Each and every one of us are individualizations. So we are independent things, but we are part of the universal process, part of the universal change, part of the universe evolving. We make that happen in our experiences, through our experiences. In fact, human beings actually flourish, some more than others, in unstable, fluctuating environments. The more the same old stays around, the more energy is dissipated to maintain its existence. So what I'm saying there is that if we keep too much of the same old, we start to rust. To put it like the car, we start to rust. Growth and expansion decreases, and dis-ease in mind and body starts to increase. And eventually that results in the system, mentally, physically, spiritually, breaking down and ceasing to exist as an organized system, as how you are incarnated right now. Or we can enjoy and dance with the constant movement, the constant chaos of the world. Now, I'm not talking about chaos that's traumatic, although some is. But there's constant movement all around us. The neighbors making noise, the cars zipping past us, the boss in a bad mood, the spouse, the partner in a very good mood and a very active mood when you're a little more, I'd like to be solitary and just kind of sit and relax mood. That's a chaos in your world, or can be a chaos in your world. But by dancing with it, by living with it, we are reordering ourselves in a new way and avoiding the death and continuing the rebirth. So we can make that choice. But we can handle the fluctuations. We can handle the fluctuations, the input from the environment that may have overwhelmed the old system, the old idea, the old perspective. That was before you were dipping into your spiritual practice more and more, using the affirmative incantations I write more and more, reading the book that I write, the Affirmation Revolution, more and more. Those change the old thresholds. Those rise the old thresholds so that the input from the environment that might have overwhelmed the old you, and the old you could have been yesterday, could have been an hour ago, escapes into a higher order. The system, your system, you escape into a higher order by using these spiritual practices. Now, what does all this mean? The human brain is constantly taking in energy and information from the environment, right? Constantly dispersing energy by being awake, doing activities, talking, thinking, etc. And we're able to handle amazing amounts of input from the environment, encountering all kinds of new ideas, stimuli, and events without threat to our health, mentally, physically, or spiritually. But yeah, sometimes, and sometimes too many times, we reach a critical level, which is different for each individual, obviously, and get overwhelmed and become less and less able to deal with the increased input of things, or the moment that doesn't make sense to our perspective on life. And that can bring us, that can bring out our childish drama, our fragile egos, which all of us have in one way or another about one subject or another, or our misplaced priorities tend to pop out. We get triggered. We start reacting instead of responding. When we allow that low threshold to continue, when we allow our mental, physical, and spiritual body to rust, to not flow, to not dance on this journey at this time in this body, revealing the divine. We can reveal the divine in a negative way if we choose to, a negative for ourselves if we choose to. But if you do react, whether it's by self-medicating with a drink, any form of overuse or abuse of drugs, etc., food, etc., or adrenaline rushes. Some people do it by the adrenaline rush. Anything that temporarily masks your feelings. If we do react that way, after you stop yourself, because eventually you will stop yourself, and as your threshold gets higher and higher, you will stop yourself quicker and quicker from the reaction and get on the other side of the reaction. You know what? It's time to rejoice. No, it's time to rejoice. And if it takes a day right now to get over that reaction, to get over the experience that you put yourself through as from the trigger, okay, rejoice that you ended it. Whether it was your body telling you to end it because you slept for 12 hours or what, but rejoice. Rejoice because now you're on the other side of that reaction. Now you can handle what's going on or went on consciously. It's a moment of truth to rejoice about, not get into shame, blame, or guilt. That just starts the rusting all over again. You want to rust, get into shame, blame, and guilt, and watch your body, your mind, and your spirit start rusting. What you want to do is rejoice, or as psychiatrist Abraham Maslow calls, have the peak experience, which gives you the chance of escaping into a higher order to evolve and grow. This is where psychology and neuroscience and spirituality and mindfulness have a confluence. This combo of input affects the brain so strongly that even a brain resistant to change can be impacted, so that the reactions slowly go away and responses are more prevalent. Through meditation creates these fluctuations in the brain that eventually affect even our deepest and most unconscious resistance, because most of this resistance is unconscious. And meditation starts creating change at a very, very deep level. Like I said, affirmative incantations, they remind the subconscious of the truth that has been pushed away by facts, fear, resistance. Visioning brings forth answers so deep in us that any resistance that might be in our unconscious starts to dissipate, and the divine itself starts to reveal itself and speak through you, for you, as you, with you. Visualizing and envisioning work combine the imagination, inspiration, and the heart, bringing forth an experiential feeling, an experiential imagination, combining to sort of pre-living the experience that you have decided to manifest. With these and other spiritual practices, eventually the brain evolves to a point where it is able to perceive, experience, and be one with the interconnections of the entire universe, so that we can pull from the universe anywhere, here, there, anywhere. Infinite opportunities, infinite ideas, infinite energies. And that allows us to heal the addictive and dysfunctional patterns that are sitting in the subconscious. Yeah, you can do therapy work. There's all kinds of work you can do in psychology, in neuroscience, as well as spiritually, to heal those addictive and dysfunctional patterns and grow into a profound sense of peace and calm. Maybe not every second of every day, but most of the seconds of most of the days. Remember that chaos may precede change, and that's okay. Chaos in your life by means of your current map of reality may show up. It's not able to handle the environment around you sometimes. Yeah, sometimes somebody says something around you. The boss tells you to do something different that you don't usually do, and it bruises your fragile ego maybe, or you just feel lousy about it. You have a personal threshold that can be expanded for what you can handle. But if you handle it consciously, then that trigger will actually lead you to a positive change if you let it, with a new and higher threshold, a new and more highly evolved map of reality that will solve many of the problems that the old map of reality couldn't handle. And eventually the brain evolves to a point where it is able to perceive, experience, and be one with the entire universe, connected to your best self, to your true self, revealing the best divine intelligence, the best divine love. Like in manifesting, you don't need to deal with the how. All you have to do is get out of the way. Here's 5 simple steps. Get out of the way. And this is from Bill Harris's book. And he advises 1, notice and acknowledge that you are in chaos. Okay? So out of chaos, I'm here, it's happening, fine. Number 2, realize it's happening because your threshold for what you can handle is too low to handle your current environment. Okay, it is. That sucks, but okay. I'm not gonna blame myself. I'm not gonna blame what's happening outside of myself. I'm not going to be stressed because of him or because I lost my job or because of terrorist attacks. Maybe for a moment. I'm going to realize that's why I'm stressed. I'm stressed because of the terrorist attacks. I'm stressed because of my kids or my parents or my partner or my finances or my health or whatever. So now you realize it. You're happening. You got the clue. You can point to where the stress is coming. And number 3, remember that it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing, something to rejoice because you've seen it. You've consciously taken hold of it. And that means you're able to evolve to the next level where that kind of trigger, that kind of reaction will disappear. And you can just declare, hallelujah, it's time to expand my consciousness and threshold to that type of experience that brings emotional pain. You got to decide, number 4, to let it be okay that this is happening. It sucks temporarily, but I can be okay, will be okay. No, I am okay. And 5, watch with curiosity. Don't resist. Remember, resistance equals pain and equals the continuance of the chaos in one form or another. It may come back around if you resist it, it'll come back around in some other form. I promise you, resistance is pain. So just let it happen. Okay, it happened. It sucks. What am I going to do about it? And I'm going to do it consciously because the conscious mind can override anything the unconscious or subconscious mind is doing. Gabby Bernstein on Twitter this week reminded us to remember you're never alone. You are never alone. Spiritual guidance is always available to you, and you can call on this guidance anytime. Anytime you can reveal that divinity in you and call on it through spiritual practice to answer some of your questions. And let me add that that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every month, every year, every moment. At any age you might be, or race or creed or income bracket or nationality or faith or gender, there is no chaotic event, no idea, no government, no law, no opinion or judgment, no boss, nothing can come between you and the universe except you allowing it. So any chaos that comes along can be reorganized to set our soul free, to embrace with an opening of our heart and awakening, to sow what we have decided to reap, to gather good things and good people around us, to assure the fruits and enjoy the gains of life, to lose and let go that which we believe has held us captive before, and be born again, revealing the divine within again and again and again and again, to laugh, to live, to love, a life of infinite joy, peace, and grace. And thus, not only build it in ourselves, but build a world that reflects all of that love, that light, that beautiful life and wisdom right here, right now, all throughout the world. Thank you so much. Namaste.